Hey guys, Sam back with you here. Where are we? We're mid-morning, January 9th. Had a member interested in looking at power to Bitcoin. So now this is a relatively new coin. So here's when we first started. I've got it up on Binance, which is it's trading on Binance and Bittrex. But I'm going to run it here on Binance, and we'll come over here, we'll check it. You can see here, this is relatively new, market cap 658 million, score here of only 36, and there's yet to be a lot of activity amongst the development community, which is, it's a bit of a red flag, but, it doesn't mean it's not tradable. It's just, something to pay attention to if you're thinking about it as a long-term hold. It seems to be a strong project. There seems to be a value add and a problem they're solving. I'll let you do your own fundamental research on it. Excuse me. So here Bittrex and Binance, you can see that's the bulk of the trading here. I'm running it on Binance over here. Now, we can see from where it starts, we get a very easy to spot Elliott wave, 5-wave structure to complete a 1 wave. So if we're going off of an Elliott count, this is our 1, here's our 2, and then there somewhere up here we're going to have a big 3, 4, 5. Let me change the degree there. And we'll take it. We'll go to intermediate. Okay, so you can get a sense of, okay, great. We're right out of the gate. It's boom into an Elliott count. There we go. So now we look at that and we go, okay, well, that's cool. So we're going up to the 1 wave. We go down we get a little A, B, C. Oh, isn't that nice? Right down to the C. There's our 2. Perfect. We go a little through the 7, 8, 6, but it's choppy. It's a volatile coin. Now, here's where it gets tricky. So far technical, right? So we got our 1, 2, and with some sort of a 3 is going in now. So since we've got that established, here's our algo target. Since we've got that established, then now here when it gets like it is here, what it's doing now in this cluster here. This is where you have to make a decision as to how much work you want to put into your technical analysis. Because I will tell you right now, this is an absolute bitch to count. So you could, if you're relatively new to Elliott wave and solving the puzzle doesn't really appeal to you, listen, you can do just fine looking for Elliott wave counts like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, easy peasy. No problem there. You want to solve the puzzle in here, you got to really enjoy solving puzzles because that's a bitch to count. So why is it a bitch? Because if you're going to maintain the Elliott wave rule structure and the rule set to define waves, you got all sorts of problems in here. So, if you're not that kind of trader that likes to get into this granular detail and figure out, how to get an Elliott count on it that doesn't violate any Elliott wave rule set, then here's your coin. Now, of course, the other alternative is you say, screw it. That's too hard for me to count. It's not worth it. There's too many other choices. I'm out of here. Yeah, that certainly is one choice. The other thing to identify here is, we've come right back up into this prior top here, this resistance. Are we top heavy here, or right? Let's pull back out and say, okay, well, what would be the reason to screw around with the count there to try and get a handle on where we're going? Well, if we've got a good 1, 2, we can start projecting for where we might envision that third. Well, we got a pretty juicy target up here. So if in the larger degree here, let me get this so it makes sense. That would be my 3rd, 4th over here. So that's ultimately what you're hoping to see if you're trying to get long here. But this is a tricky spot to do it, right? I wouldn't be a buyer here myself. But if you're trying to get a handle on where the next entry is, and if you're going to apply the Elliott rule set, well, this gets a little tricky. So I'm going to walk you through it. Just again, it's per a member's request. So I'm going to take the time to take you through it. But I would tell you, for most people, this is probably going to be more hassle than you're going to want to endure. Again, unless you love the puzzle of trying to figure it out, which I do. So that I look at that and go, okay, this is a challenge. But I like my upside targets here. So how can I find a count that works here, and how can I get into it? So let's go back to the 1 hour. POWR and take a look at it. And again, I'm warning you right now, if you're just watching this on YouTube, this is not for someone who's a casual observer of Elliott wave. All right, so all of that said, here's where we get into some trouble. So the first wave is a bit of a bitch to get a good count on, because it would be very tempting to just go, oh, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, up we go for a 5. Wouldn't that be easy? The problem is we can't qualify it in here. So if I open this up here, we can't get it to work. Believe me, I wanted it to be easy. As member says, "Hey, will you look at that?" I'm like, "Okay, no problem." You start digging in here and like, "Damn it, this is a very tricky count." I'm not trading this, so let me make that clear. But if I start trying to help him get an Elliott count on it, I look at that and I go, "Oh, well, that's kind of annoying," because it would have been really convenient if that had been my third, because I would have had a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, up we go for the 5, but we don't get that. So this can't be the third. So we have to look at that and go, oh, okay, if that can't be the third, well, here's the high probability zone for my third right here, 1618, 175. So we do get that. So that would imply that this has to be counted as such. So we have to get my count here. So we have to go 1, 2. Now I want to go 3, but it doesn't qualify. It's not. This is longer. So I have to go 3. Here I get my 4, and there's my 5. Okay. So let me lower the degree so that makes sense. Okay. So that actually works. Now that's very technical. So what does that mean? That means that this, as much as I wanted it to be, it can't be my one wave. That would have been much easier. So if I pull out on this now, that means here's my 2. Okay, so let me zoom back out. So this has to be my one wave, right? So I have a count there that works. It makes sense. 1, 2, and then I get the subdivision to give me my 1 here. I get a very sharp 2 here, but you can, if I open it up, you can see the subdivision. There's A, B. We rip down for the 2 into the C. And now I'm kind of sideways here, and it may well be that we get this over here, that we have that classic pattern that we look for, where we get into a B and then we come down into the C, so we get a double bottom here. So it's, in effect, it's another truncated C, as we see in crypto, as you've heard me mention many times. So that potentially now, so does that play? Okay, if that's 1, 2, well then of course we very much want to do this. Then we want to just, okay, let's keep it easy. Well, that's my 1, 2 right to the 50. Wow, I go to the negative 100. Isn't that pretty? We go down to the oscillators here. Well, there's the big pump on the Elliott oscillator, so that's definitely my third. So you're thinking, okay, so what's the problem? So far, so good. This is nice and easy. Okay, well, if this is my third here, if I want to do that, which is what I wanted to do, I want to put the third here. Okay, well, if that's my third, right? So everything is gorgeous to this point until we get into the subdivision. That's where you have a problem. Now, again, this is your choice as to whether or not you want to maintain discipline within an Elliott wave count. So here's the problem. Right here, this bar right here, this if I open it up, you can see it. This bar right here that I've got now labeled as a second wave invalidates the count, because I can't have a diagonal in my third wave, right? That's just Elliott rule set. If this is my 2, which certainly that plays, I want this to be my third, but it would be a diagonal because of this. There's no way to count this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, because I overlap the 1 here. So I've got a diagonal. So it cannot be my third. So, again, right, do you care? Do you care? Right? It's trader's choice. So, if you're going to be strict about an Elliott rule set, why would it matter? Well, if you're going to trade this coin, it's going to matter, because eventually that will come into play. I propose that to you. So if that can't be my third because of the depth of this correction here, the only thing I can get that works there is that's a 1, 2. So let's check that. So if this is the start of this, and I can get a 1, 2, 3, I get a shallow 4, but it plays. There's my 1. If I project from my 2, what I propose is my 2 low. Okay, well, here's 100%. So we get a tick through the 1, 2, 7, 2. Right? Remember, 1272 is the square root of 1618. Here's the high probability zone, but then I get another extreme sell-off. Okay, so I can't get an impulsive wave to take shape here. So I have to change the count. So this cannot be my third yet. What can this be? Now, if you're a bull and you're willing to work through this, this is extremely bullish, because what's left? Well, we know that via Elliott wave theory and rule set that we can only have a diagonal. Excuse me. We can only have a diagonal in a one wave, a leading diagonal in a one wave, an A wave, and an ending diagonal in a C wave or a fifth wave. Well, this certainly would appear if we're operating on the premise that we have a 1-2 and we're trying to get going here. We've already taken out the highs here, so we're trying to get some sense of where we're going. If this is 1-2 and this can't be 3, what does that leave? That only leaves a leading diagonal, which means I've got 1-2, 1-2 going on. So what does that mean? That means prices are going a shitload higher. If this count is going to hold is what that means. Because I can't get a count that works any other way. So that third, remember we had big targets up here. So that third all of a sudden starts to make more sense if I'm in the process of putting the one wave in of the third wave. Do you see that? So here's 1-2. And now I'm struggling to get a one wave in of the third. So that implies much, much higher prices. Do you get that? Do you see that as a result of the fact that this can't be my third here, much as I want it to be, it can be a third, but only of a diagonal, meaning a leading diagonal, meaning this is likely a one wave. So I go from, let me change the degree so it makes sense. So I go back here. So let's go up a degree. So let's go to we'll go to minor. Okay. So that's 1-2. Then I am putting in the 1-2 of the next degree from this low here. So this is likely 1, 2. We're going 3, 4, 5. We're going much higher. That's good news if you're a bull. Right now, if you're trying to swing trade it, did you stick around long enough to go through all of that to get a handle on the count, or did you just say, screw it, I'll move to the next coin? Trader's choice, right? Are you willing to do the work to try and solve the puzzle? That's up to the individual trader. What I see here is that's great news if you're a bull, because if I'm going to go up here and finish a fifth of my one wave, wow, that implies much higher prices, but it also means that's going to impact the pivots that I'm going to pull from, and where I'm going to look for my next entry, because I wouldn't be a buyer here as we're approaching these highs, right? So the entries were down here, not to mention the fact, to make it more difficult in this coin, we're getting a very complex correction here in the fourth of this diagonal. So it's an annoying coin to try and get a coin on, to get a count on. This caught my attention here. So prior resistance offering just perfect support. So again, you want this to be 1, 2, 3, 4. You want that, but it doesn't play. Violates the rule set right there. So as much as I want that to be the 4, it can't be. It can be the 4 of the 1. You see that? So that's what we end up getting. So we get a 5-wave structure into the 1 here. Here's the deep 2. So let me open that up again, so we can see it. So this is the wick that blows the count. So what does that mean? So let's check it. So if this is my 2 and this is now my 1, well here's my golden pocket. I get a little bit through it. Here's my Vegas wave, a little support. This doesn't help me, so this has to be completed. So yes, I can squeeze a 5-wave count out of that. I get a shallow, short. If you go down to the 15-minute, it's there. Because believe me, I worked through it to get it. So there's the 1, there's the deep 2. Here's my 3 right to the negative 618. I like the look of that. Then if I look at it from an Elliott count perspective, if I take the length of my 1, project it from my 2. Okay, again, so I get a little hot box up here. So that's what I like to see, confluence. So I've got a nice confluence zone here to imply that I've got my third. Remember, again, down here, here's the peak of the Elliott oscillator. So here's the 1, here's the big 3, but then we go down again. So it creates another diagonal. So this deeply overlaps the 1. So that can only be a 4. But the question now, we go into this complex correction, is that the A wave? That seems to be what's implied here, right? Because this one here, it's not relative to that one. The fact that that holds, that's structural support rather than an Elliott count being supported. Again, it doesn't happen by accident, but as we put a count on this, that doesn't play as my 4 for the reasons I just walked you through. So now what do we have? Well, now we seem to be stuck in some sort of a complex correction here, because I've got I've got a screaming rip down for my A wave, but I don't go impulsive to finish my 5th. Nor, I mean, I might. I don't think it, I checked this. I don't think we have a diagonal here. We might, but I don't think we get 100% here. So if I look at this as my, pardon me, wrong tool. If I get the right tool on this, if I pull from here, if that were my 1 and this were my 2, see, I'm not to 100%. So unlikely that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4. Doesn't play. So that can't be right. So what's left? Well, it looks to me more like I've got an ABC into a larger B. So on the larger degree, so if I change that degree, let's go up so it makes sense. So if I go to minuet, so we get a 5-wave sequence into an A, potentially now the 4th here remains to be seen because of the complexity here. So this may end up being over here. We have to see how this resolves, but so we may have that classic shallow. We may have that shallow C wave that we get so often in crypto. That may be the case. So we can draw this kind of a thing here, and we can draw from up here. Maybe I've got a complex 4 here where I get an A, B, shallow, truncated C into my 4th. Maybe, but yet again, I get a 3-wave here, not impulsive. So this may be A, B, C, D, E. Remains to be seen what we've got. We need to see some resolution that is impulsive, and all we're getting is threes, lots of 3s, and lots of overlap. So this is a really difficult count to get a handle on. So yet again, I would imagine most viewers have already bailed on this video because they don't want to deal with this complexity. And I'm not saying you need to deal with this complexity. I'm saying if you want to deal with this complexity and you want to learn to apply Elliott wave trading, and you're willing to do the work and maintain the discipline of a count, and not just going up, so it overlaps a little bit, so what? That's your prerogative, right? If you want to do the work, this is what you end up with. Now we shall see, what happens next. So it's inconclusive is the bottom line. So that's a long way to go to tell you that unless you're long off of this, that was pretty. Unless you're long off of that, so if we work from the 2, so you wouldn't have known this complexity was coming. So if you took it here just because you were doing some technical trading, well, we're right to the golden zone. That's pretty. Here's the support. I mean, that's beautiful. But you don't get an impulse out of it. That's the problem. So what do we have now? We have chop. We have indecision. We have a coin that's not fully mature, really. At 36%, we're not quite there. And it's a new coin. It's a relatively new project. So what do you do with that? Of course, the obvious choice is you wait. You don't go near it until you get more clarity, until the market reveals itself. Are we going up here? Here's our algo target from the golden zone here. So from our pull from our 2 to this pivot, whether it's a 3, 4, remains to be seen. If we're going to pull from this low, there's our algo target, which would be consistent with here's our 1618. Remember that zone? So look at this nice confluence I get up here. I get a big confluence zone up here. Here's my negative 23.6, my algo target, and my 1618 for the first wave. So lots of opportunity, but I don't. It's just my prerogative. I don't buy breakouts. I buy retracements. So again, it doesn't mean that this couldn't just rip from here right there. I'm not saying that's not possible, or not even I'm not saying it's not likely. It may well do that, by the end of the day, or in the next 12 hours. It could easily do that, but there's no there's no trade there that I can put on with the kind of risk reward parameters that I look for. So very tricky coin, a difficult count to get. You know, it's not for everyone to trade. You know, I mean, the other choice is you just buy it because you like the project, and you just say, okay, I'm going to be a long-term holder here. If you want to trade it, you want to be a swing trader and apply Elliott rule set to it, that's a very difficult coin to manage. All right, there's your target. We shall see. Now, if we get up there, and we get a pivot here, well, then we can trade it, because then I've got a completed one wave. Now it gets a little easier, because now I'm just going to pull from my 2. If hypothetically, let's say we pivot up there. Well, here's my 2. Here's my second wave down here. And I'm going to wait for that retracement, and I'm going to look for 3-wave subdivision to get me there. You see it? Okay. Tough one. Okay, guys, that's it for now.